Hello there everybody, your audience, my name is Supersonic Blur and welcome back to another How It Be! Yes, this is now Serious and Things, and in the last one we looked at Obsidian Shard and just how that all sort of works and how it be in comparison to things like the Spirit of the Magus and how the two work together. This time we're going to be looking at the physical equivalents, and that is Titans Bane and the Executioner. Now, these two are going to be slightly different, but we'll start with what's familiar to us, and that is the Titans Bane. Exactly the same way as Obsidian Shard, it has a three-part passive, where at under a certain amount of protections you have one percentage penetration value, over a certain amount you have another protection percentage value, and then in the middle it's another line that rises up to the between the two of them. So let's start off with that. Instead of at 40 protections, the threshold for the 15% on Titans Bane is actually 65. So when we're putting this one in, we're gonna have our remaining protections equals initials protections minus 0.15, 15% of those initial protections. And instead of going from 0 is less than or equal to X is less than or equal to 40, it is in fact 65. So as you can see here, this line, it follows the exact same line that the Obsidian Shard one did, because it's the exact same percentage. It just goes on for a little bit longer. The next side of things we can do that's fairly easily is we can actually do the top end, which is our resulting protections is initial protections minus 0.4. It's not 0.45% of our protections this time, and this value is between 200 is less than or equal to X is less than or equal to 325, and that's that. Also, we'll make this red because it looks nicer that way. So these are our protection value pieces that we have here and that we have here. It's less than it is for Obsidian Shard, but you know, it's still the best percentage that you have here. So we have that going on, and now we just need to find the line between the two of them. And for that, we're going to go back and use y equals mx plus c. This one does not look nice or feel nice in any way, so I'm not even going to pretend that it looks nice. It just doesn't, and it looks like this. So yeah, that's what we have here, and this is our line that we have, which isn't too bad, you know, all things considered. I mean, you get a reasonable amount of penetration against anyone who has actual protection, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Against squishies, it's kind of poop, so anyone who just basically doesn't have any protections, you basically have no penetration against them with a Titans Bane. It's literally worse than like any flat pen item. But in comparison to the other side of things, it does fairly reasonable amounts. I mean, you get sort of like 40 protection percentage, and you know, above the 200 mark, which is against like a solo laner, you got 80, which is pretty good. Now, as for the Executioner, unlike Spirit of the Magus, we can't just take a flat amount because it is a percentage. So instead, we're gonna have this y equals x minus some kind of x part. But for this, we're actually gonna have the 12%. And then we're going to have an S on it. Now the S is just going to be the stack, so it's between 0, 3, and it steps 1, which just means that it does this. Now what's interesting is that originally, Titans Bane used to be y equals x minus 0.33x, and this was categorically worse than the Executioner, because Executioner is just 33%, so any value, it is better than when you have all three stacks. In fact, there was a huge great debate going on at is it worth doing based on the actual difference, because you've got a basic with 0% pen, then a 1%, or then a 12%, then a 24, and then, only then do you get the 3% difference. And the person who mostly sort of vouched for this was called Tight Time, who's no, Dead by Daylight streamer, but that's not the point. The whole thing was that Obsidian Shard used to, Titans Bane categorically, in terms of penetration values, was just worse. The other thing was also that it worked on towers, but it doesn't now because it would penetrate more than 33%. So that's a fun little thing. But either way, now though, because Titans Bane does end up actually going to 40%, there is a crossover point in which these two sit, and that point is actually and coincidentally pretty much around the 150 mark. So if you're going against someone with more than 150 protections, you're actually going to be in a point where you will penetrate more with a Titans Bane. Of course, this isn't actually looking to the argument of how much damage are they going to get in difference, and say they have like the 100 protection mark. At 100 protections they have 64, and at here they have 70 something, but they have that 70 for the entire time that you're hitting them. For Executioner, it's the 3 basics that go in, what's the DPS loss, where's the cover up point. I may look at that a little bit in detail, but that will be for another video. That's not for this one. Also as well, we'll just put in the parameters. 0 is that into X, is that into 325. So there we go. Now, the real question is now though, how does this look if we have both of them? And that's a very interesting and somewhat difficult question to actually answer, but nevertheless, I have done my best to actually show you guys. Now, because this is a percentage reduction, this works in the same way as any reduction. Reduction goes first, and then the percentage comes later. Unfortunately though, this is going to look slightly weirder, because unlike what we were able to do with the Spear of the Magus to the Obsidian Shard, where it's just, oh, we just need to bump it up 50, we need to actually bump it up a set percentage. So this is where we're going to do something that's a little bit useful. We're going to look at where y equals 65. Now the reason we're looking at this is because this is the threshold cutoff point for the Titans Bane. So when we reduce the protections down to 65, this is the limit of where Titans Bane will only reduce to, will only give you 15% penetration. So at 101.53563, you will have penned 65 or protections from them with the Executioner. So because of that, we know that we're going to end up with y equals 0.85, which is just this bit here of x, but the x bit needs to actually be this bit here. So what we're actually going to do is, it is x minus 0.12 s of x, and that sits there like that. And this is going to sit for between the values of 0 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 101.563. Yada yada yada. So that's where that's going to go, and as you can see, this comes up to the 60, or it comes very close to this bit, which is there, as you can see. So because of that, we have this. What we can also now do is we can use the same thing to find the top end. If we go y equals 200 here, we can see that actually at 312.5, the Executioner will have taken off that 36%, which is the equivalent of 112.5, which drops it down to 200. So it's at this value that you actually end up with the 40% penetration from Titans Bane. So for the Titans Bane, we will do the exact same thing, and that is y equals 0.6, because it's just this bit here. And then we do this bit here. We're going to copy that, and we're going to paste that there. And these are for the values of 312.5 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 325. So what we can initially see here is that because of the way Executioner and Titans Bane work, if you get the two together, you are rarely going to actually get the full 40% penetration equivalent from the Titans Bane. You're barely going to get it. Like, they have to literally have maxed out their physical protections for you to actually get that 40%. So keep that in mind. This is where a lot of people talk about the anti-synergy of these two items. By combining the two of them, yes, you're getting overall more pen, but you're weakening the effective amounts that these two are going to have, and I'll explain what I mean about that a little later. But for the meantime, we have another missing line here, and this one we can do the exact same thing, y equals mx plus c. And this one looks disgusting. I'm not even going to pretend that it looks nice. It just doesn't. So yeah, these are the values that we end up with. So we end up going all the way up to here, and then as we slowly increase this line, it goes up to here. Now what's interesting to note is that these two lines have completely different gradients to them. So this line has a different gradient to this line, so it's shallower, which means that the percentage penetration that you're getting is going to have a weird sort of a curve effect when we look at it. So the way we're going to do that is right now we just see, oh, here's some numbers and things like that. Like, these are numbers, here's what we end up with. And as you can see, it's not too bad. Like, when you have 325 protections, you are getting rid of over 200 of them, which, you know, that's pretty good. But how do we actually show? We've got two percentage things here, so just how much are we impacting the percentage penetration that these two items are giving us? Well, the way that we're going to do this is we're going to be a little bit sneaky, and what we're going to do is we're just going to call this A, we're going to call this B, and we're going to call this C. Now that doesn't really change anything in terms of the graph, but what it does let us do is it let us go y equal 100, which I'm going to say this is just a percentage piece, don't worry about this. I know this line is showing two different things now, but shh, I won't tell anyone if you don't. So then what we're going to do is we're going to minus 100A divided by X. Now 100A divided by X is just a percentage, and then minusing it from this shows how much percentage we have. We can't go to 0 because 0 is undefined, so that's all fine. And as you can see, if we just go X equals 100 here, you can see that at 100 you have 54.4 protections remaining, which means that the penetration that we're having is actually 45.6%. So it's just an interesting thing to look at, considering you have 15% coming from the Titans Bane, you have the 12% coming from the Executioner, which is there. That should be in blue. Sorry. So you have the 12% coming from, the 36%, but combining the two, it ends up at 45.6. So that's just interesting to note. Then we can also do this for the other results. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go there, and I'm going to do it again, and instead of this, I'm going to go B, and instead of this, I'm going to go C. And again, we're just going to make these purple because it all looks good. Now, like I said, because these have this gradient and this is a different gradient, it's going to get this fun, interesting little line here. So we end up with, we start off with 45% penetration against anyone with under 100 protections with 3 stacks of the Executioner. But then going on, as you increase the protections, the amount that you increase it by changes ever so slightly, and the higher you get, the slower it increases its percentage. Don't ask me why this does this, it just does. And then you end up with 61.6% penetration in total, which is a really interesting just thing to see, is that you end up with what looks like you get the 40 and then 36%, so you're like, oh, that's like 76% penetration. You end up with actually less than that. And again, down here, you also end up with less than that. We can look and see the top and bottom end, what happens when you don't have the Executioner. As you can see, it's just, you know, you get the 40% here, you get the 15%, but as it increases, you get this weird, interesting effect where each Executioner stack with Titans Bane is the equivalent of 12.2%, and I can actually just do this. It's the equivalent of, you know, like 10.2% penetration, which is pretty nifty to see. And at the top end, it's actually worth 7.2%, which is just a weird and interesting thing to note. Can't do for the middle section because it's a static line, because shush, I couldn't make a straight line that curves like this, but it also includes the parameters that we've got. So if anyone happens to want to work on that, link will be in the description down below for you to have a tinker with this side of things. But yeah, that is the Titans Bane graph side of things. We can also as well, quickly, I know this isn't for that, but we can also as well just go to the Obsidian Shard, we can open this, and we can do the exact same thing here. So yeah, we have all our, the old Obsidian graph chart, as you can see here, which is there like that. What we can also now do, wait, that's just Obsidian Shard, isn't it? Is it? Yeah, that's just the Obsidian Shard. I want the, where did I put it? It's protection graph. This is the one I want. We can actually do the exact same thing for this graph. As you can see, the purple line is the percentage. Now, unlike the Titans Bane, where it goes up and up and up, this one has a flat amount in it, so it's actually going to decrease. As you can see, anything from 50 to the 100 and to the 67.6, you have 100% because it's just a straight line. We're looking at this one here. Then from here, it curves all the way down, and it curves down to 90% penetration when you hit the 70 mark, or the 78 mark, as it were. and then as you keep going, the 70% mark when you have 90 protections, and then it goes down and down and down and down and down and down and down, but it will never hit under 50% penetration. So, you know, it's just an interesting thing to note. And again, because magical protections are so much more difficult to come by, it's just nice to see that you can still have such a high amount of penetration. And this is why the Obsidian Shard and the Spear of the Magus are so popular, because 50 flat amount for more than 150 protections is at least 33% penetration. That is it just does more early than it does in comparison to the Executioner. So it's just an interesting thing to know, and I thought I would share that with you. But either way, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for our look at the Titans Bane protections and stuff like that. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have anything in particular that you want me to go a little bit more in depth on with Smite stuff. The main goal of this series is just take a bit of a closer look at specific mechanics, how they work, what exactly it means, and the maths behind it, like I said in the first one. Similar to a Duke's Law Theft thing, just with slightly lower production values. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, my name has been Supersonic Blur. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and favorite for more, and to share this stuff so people know that it exists. You guys have been a fantastic audience, and I shall see you all next time.